sugar pill cured someone's chronic pain. A fake surgery fixed a deteriorating knee. A patient's tumor shrank after receiving a treatment that did not exist. None of this is fiction. All of it is documented in peer-reviewed medical research. The placebo effect is one of the most studied phenomena in all of medicine, and also one of the most misunderstood. Most people think they know what it is, a fake treatment that works because you think it will. But the real story is far stranger and far more powerful than that. Your brain, under the right conditions, can produce real morphine, real dopamine, real adrenaline from nothing but expectation. And researchers have only recently begun to understand what that means for everything we thought we knew about medicine, belief, and the relationship between mind and body. The modern scientific study of the placebo effect begins on a World War II battlefield. Henry Beecher, an anesthesiologist from Harvard, was treating wounded soldiers when the morphine supply ran out. In desperation, a nurse injected a soldier with saline solution, salt water, while telling him it was morphine. The soldier's pain reduced. He did not go into shock. Beecher was stunned. When he returned to the United States, he spent the next decade documenting cases like this one. In 1955, he published a landmark paper, The Powerful Placebo, reporting that in controlled clinical trials, roughly 35% of patients showed measurable improvement from inert treatments. The medical establishment was skeptical. How could nothing produce something? The answer, it turned out, was that the brain is not passive in the experience of illness. It is an active participant. When you take a placebo, a sugar pill, a saline injection, a sham procedure, and believe it will work, your brain does not simply decide to feel better. It initiates real physiological processes. Brain imaging studies show that placebo painkillers activate the same neural pathways as real opioid drugs. The brain releases endogenous opioids, its own natural morphine, in response to the expectation of pain relief. Placebo antidepressants trigger measurable changes in brain activity in regions associated with mood regulation. Placebo Parkinson's treatments cause the brain to release dopamine. These are not imagined effects. They are measurable, biological, reproducible. The expectation of a treatment activates the same neurochemistry as the treatment itself. The belief is the drug. But the placebo effect has a dark mirror, and this one is almost never talked about. It is called the nocebo effect, from the Latin for "I will harm." If the placebo is the power of positive expectation, the nocebo is the power of negative expectation. When patients in clinical trials are told about potential side effects of a drug, including the placebo group, who are taking nothing, the patients who receive this information experience those side effects at significantly higher rates than those who were not told. Patients who believe they have been given a toxic substance show measurable physiological stress responses. People who strongly believe they will die from an illness, even when medically that prognosis is not certain, have dramatically shorter survival times than those who do not hold that belief. The brain does not distinguish cleanly between expected harm and real harm. Expectation in the negative direction produces real biological damage. The nocebo effect has been documented in some of the most dramatic cases in medical literature. Voodoo death, documented by anthropologist Walter Cannon in the 1940s, describes cases where individuals who believe they have been cursed by a shaman die within days, with no identifiable organic cause. Doctors who give terminal diagnoses with extreme certainty have been implicated in patients dying precisely on the predicted schedule, when patients given more uncertain prognoses lived significantly longer. A man in a clinical trial for an antidepressant took what he believed was a massive overdose of the study drug and arrived at the emergency room in life-threatening condition. The drug was a placebo. His body had produced a genuine overdose response to a substance that was pharmacologically inert. The belief was the poison. What determines how powerful a placebo response is? Researchers have identified several consistent modulators. The relationship with the provider matters enormously. Warm, attentive doctors produce stronger placebo effects than cold, dismissive ones, even when administering identical treatments. The appearance of the treatment matters. Larger pills produce stronger effects than smaller ones. Injections stronger than pills. Branded drugs stronger than generics, even when the active ingredient is identical. The price of a treatment matters. Patients who are told a painkiller costs more report greater pain relief than those told it is cheap, even when both groups receive the same thing. The ritual of treatment matters. The ceremony of being examined, diagnosed, and treated activates the expectation response before any substance enters the body. None of this is about being gullible. It is about how the brain uses context to predict outcomes, and then makes those predictions real. Quick recap before we get to the strangest part. The placebo effect is real, measurable, and biological, not imaginary. It works by activating the brain's own pharmaceutical system in response to expectation. The nocebo effect is its mirror. Negative expectation produces real physiological harm, and the strength of both effects is modulated by context. The provider relationship, the appearance of the treatment, the price, the ritual, all of that is well established. Now, here is the finding that made researchers genuinely reconsider everything they thought they knew about how placebos work. In 2010, researcher Ted Kaptchuk at Harvard Medical School published a study that the medical community found almost impossible to explain. He told patients with irritable bowel syndrome exactly what he was going to give them. He said, "These are placebo pills made of an inert substance, like sugar pills, that have been shown in clinical studies to produce significant improvement in IBS symptoms through mind-body self-healing processes." He gave them a bottle clearly labeled placebo pills, and the patients who took them, knowing they were placebos, with no deception involved, showed significantly greater improvement than the control group who received no treatment. The finding has since been replicated in chronic back pain, cancer-related fatigue, ADHD, and depression. Open-label placebos are placebos work, and nobody fully understands why. The open-label placebo finding dismantles the traditional explanation for how placebos work. The standard account was, placebos work because patients expect them to work, and expectation activates neurochemistry. But if you tell patients the pill is inert, the expectation of a drug effect should disappear. And yet the effect persists. Several competing hypotheses exist. One is that the ritual of taking a pill, even a known placebo, is itself enough to activate conditioned physiological responses built up over a lifetime of taking real medication. The body has learned. Pill-taking triggers healing responses. Another is that the conscious belief and the subconscious physiological response are partially independent, that the brain's healing systems can be activated through mechanisms that bypass conscious expectation entirely. A third is that the therapeutic relationship and the act of receiving care are themselves biologically active ingredients, separate from any substance. None of these explanations is complete. The open-label placebo remains one of the genuinely unsolved puzzles of modern medicine. The placebo research points towards something with practical implications that go well beyond medicine. Ritual matters. Context matters. The story you tell yourself about what you are experiencing and what you are doing matters, not metaphorically, but biologically. Athletes who perform pre-competition rituals show measurably different physiological preparation than those who do not. Students who are told a test measures a skill they have shown better performance than those told it measures a fixed ability, even on the same test. Patients who receive care in environments they perceive as warm and attentive recover faster than those in identical medical condition treated in environments they perceive as cold and institutional. The mind is not separate from the body, generating experiences that the body passively receives. The mind and body are in continuous, bidirectional communication, and the expectations you carry into any situation shape the biological reality of that situation. What do you do with this knowledge? The placebo effect is not a loophole to exploit or a trick to play on yourself. It is a reminder that the biological and the psychological are not two separate systems operating in parallel. They are one system, responding continuously to context, expectation, and meaning. 3 things that research supports. First, take the ritual seriously. Whether it is a pre-sleep routine, a pre-performance preparation, or a morning practice, The consistency and intentionality of ritual activates the brain's conditioning responses. Second, be careful with nocebo. The side effect lists you read, the catastrophic medical information you consume, the worst-case scenarios you rehearse, these are not neutral. Negative expectation has a biological cost. This is not an argument for magical thinking. It is an argument for careful, evidence-based management of the stories you tell yourself. Third, choose your providers and your environments thoughtfully. The warmth of the therapeutic relationship is not a soft variable. It is a pharmacologically active ingredient. The placebo effect is sometimes dismissed as evidence that a treatment does not really work, that if it works through placebo, the benefit is not real. But this misses the point entirely. If a sugar pill produces real endorphins that reduce real pain in a real person, the pain reduction is real. The pathway through which it arrived is unusual, but the destination is identical. The placebo effect does not prove that medicine is fake. It proves that the body's capacity to heal itself is far more sophisticated and far more accessible than we imagined, and that the mind, through expectation, ritual, relationship, and meaning, is one of the most powerful pharmacies in existence. You carry inside you one of the most sophisticated pharmaceutical systems ever studied. You cannot fully control it consciously, but you can create the conditions under which it works better or worse, and knowing that is worth something. Has a ritual, a belief, or a context ever made something noticeably better or worse for you, in a way you could not fully explain at the time? Drop it in the comments. In the next video, we cover false memories, the discovery that your brain does not record the past, it reconstructs it. And the reconstruction is far less accurate than you think. Elizabeth Loftus spent decades proving that you can be made to remember things that never happened with vivid, confident detail. Subscribe so you do not miss it. See you in the next video.